Coaches, welcome back to another episode of the New Jersey High School Strength Coach Podcast. I'm Zach Evnesh. I'm with my friend, Paul Collodi, strength coach over at Hunterdon Central Regional High School. And today's guest, we have Coach Joe McAuliffe. Joe is in his early 50s, I believe. He's got a private facility called JM Power. And he's also been, I've known about him for a while because he's coached, done the strength and conditioning at the local schools. I believe he's been with Red Bank Catholic. He's with Howell. So he's in the private sector, but he's also been inside the schools. So it's going to be real interesting conversation. And he's going to be on in a few minutes, Paul. So I want us to kick this off, though, with you talking about we've got the Northeast regional event that you are hosting virtually.
Yeah, part two. It kind of stinks. 2 years in a row, I'm getting the shaft. Wanted to have it at my facility, so hopefully it'll give me year three next year when everything's good. But May 15th, we're going to have the virtual. We got a great lineup. We got Joe Artari. We got Coach Berg up in Minnesota. Coach Taft is going to come talk about speed and agility. Coach Lima, he's going to talk about the reactive strength. We got an awesome lineup put together. So
no doubt. I learned from Lee Taft at the first ever pilot of the IYCA, the International Youth Conditioning Association, and it was in Chicago. And so this was, I was training people out of my garage. So we're probably looking around 2004, 2005. And, speed and agility was, there was no YouTube. So that kind of learning was very hard to come by. There were no videos. And I flew to Chicago, and then a guy drove me back because I threw up on the airplane so many times. It was, when I landed in Chicago, it was snowing sideways.
Unbelievable. I'm going to tell you when you met Lee another time. You were talking with Coach McKenna. It was at New Jersey Coaches Association or something like that. It was at a hotel. I don't even remember the town, but I brought Lee in because Lee was going to do a private thing for me that night at the ballpark when I was with the Patriots.
Yeah.
And Lee spoke for about 45 minutes at that, right after you.
What's interesting also is Lee used to live in upstate New York, right outside Lake George. Mm-hmm. So when my wife and I don't even think we had kids, so it was quite a while ago, he was doing sports performance in one of those like big bubbles.
Yeah.
He was doing a mastermind event with coaches, and coaches were from all around the country. One guy from Puerto Rico. It was interesting. Some of them were from the islands. Mm-hmm. So Puerto Rico, and I can't remember another island. And I went there and took them through like a full body weight workout, all kinds of the partner hand walk stuff, all the things I do like with the warm-ups, especially for the wrestlers. So Lee and I have known each other for a while. And Joe Artari, I follow him on Twitter. I saw him speak, and really smart coach, and he's very young. So it's I could tell he's done his research. And you're mentioning that seminar. I guess like Coach McKenna had started like the New Jersey. What was that called? I'm remembering it.
I can't even remember. It was just for New Jersey coaches. I know there were athletic trainers there. There were strength coaches there.
I remember.
I remember it was short. It was short and sweet. Everybody had a half hour, 40 minutes, and we were out the door.
Yeah, that was great. So I'm excited. What is the date, and where can they register for the regional event?
May 15th, and it's at the nhssca.us, and you click on the events tab, and it'll be there on the events. It's the Northeast Regional. And then I put it on Facebook today, and I put it on Instagram, and we'll just keep plugging it out there as well. So, if you follow us, if you follow Zach or myself, you'll see it on there, and you'll see all the information.
Yep. And then, of course, if you're inside the Facebook group, so nhssca.us is the website, and then you could look for that in the Facebook group. What about, Paul, for members? when do we record these virtual conferences and then it goes inside the professional development area? Is that what we do?
I'm not sure if the whole conference goes in. They may do clips. So
okay,
Coach Lima's presentation may be in there, and then they may release Coach Berg's in there as well. But Coach Berg is going to be a good one. She's going to talk about how the combat fitness test, how you can actually put that into your curriculum and into your phys ed department. So that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I'm excited to learn for that because I was part of, we rewrote our phys ed curriculum and basically added, myself and Mark Rosamilia, we added strength and conditioning, kind of like long-term development, into the curriculum so that we basically are able to implement strength and conditioning during phys ed year round versus, oh, they did it for 4 weeks, the unit is over, why are you doing that again? So it becomes an annual plan essentially. So I'm looking forward to that, and I have to present with Mark. I think we have to do like a 5-minute video presentation to basically demonstrate the worth of it to the Board of Ed members. So, you know, the Board of Ed wants to know, hey, what improvements are you making for the students? And Board of Ed members don't always have kids in the school. So it's always, you know, that's interesting. And another thing of note for our friends out there is you always just want to be providing value. So something I'm thinking about when I'm off my crutches is I'm going to connect with Mark on this, but like him and I will, I'll talk to him, like we put together a short video, a fitness / health / wellness tip for the staff. So do these band face pulls for shoulder health. You're sitting all day in between classes, do 5 squats or 5 reverse lunges and 5 push-ups. Incorporate it into your class, even if you have a science class or a language arts class. So we want, you know, to, as strength coaches in the high schools, I learned this, you know, hearing about other coaches, they always spoke about what made them kind of like indisposable was they became more valuable than just working with athletics. And, you know, we spoke about that in previous episodes. And also before Joe hops on, I know we're bouncing around a lot. We've had a good handful of new members sign up, Paul, the past month. And I can't remember all their names. I reached out to all of them, copied all of our, you know, the advisory board, but I had mentioned Will Nahan up at Randolph. He used to lift with me at the first underground strength gym. He brought a bunch of his guys to a fundraiser that we did at the underground strength gym that I do every year. And just a great guy. And there's some coaches local in the Central Jersey, North and South Jersey. So New Jersey membership is growing, and I'm excited to do our in-person family day. Our man, Coach McAuliffe, is on. I'm going to let him in. So everybody hang tight. Yes, sir. Coach McAuliffe, welcome. Unmute, my friend.
He's connecting still.
Oh, he's connecting.
Am I in?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
You're in.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Roger that. Welcome, my brother. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I stayed at the gym past dinner time, and it's unbelievably peaceful. I know, you know, sometimes when you get to the gym, even though the register is not ringing, when it's dead, man, it's like heaven. I love stretching and listening to music. I'll write a little bit when the gym's totally empty, bro.
It's like a you know, some people don't understand this, but I know you guys will. I say that it's therapeutic, like it's calming. And you want to know something weird was about like 6 weeks ago, I was training, and I don't know how it came on, but I'm gonna pull up the song. It was classical music, and I was like, oh my God, I'm listening. It was Johann Sebastian Bach. I can't believe I'm lifting to this, but it did something to me. And I know everybody out there is going to say, oh, now you're old. But Joe, you know what it also made me think about? When I was young, we work with young kids, I had to have this music, this pump up song. I can't deadlift unless you put on this song.
Yep.
And now I say to myself, it's better to actually have the music I don't like. I like the, it's like works against you. It's the ultimate challenge.
It totally is. It's an amazing experiment in sociology when you look at different music. And sometimes I let the kids grab the AUGs and go on the Bluetooth. But I feel like I'm getting assaulted sometimes. It's like an assault. It's like the words. So then I'll mess with them and I'll put like the theme from Braveheart on there.
Oh,
yeah.
And they'll be looking at me. I'm like, don't you want to like throw some stones or something? You know?
The
Pirates of the Caribbean, baby. I put that on.
Caribbean.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. That's a good one too.
It's called Bagpipe Master from Braveheart.
Absolutely. And you guys always talk movies. So for me, it's Rocky, it's Rudy, it's Braveheart, it's Gladiator, and of course, Denzel, the Equalizer. So I'm with you on that.
He has studied. We don't have to send a progress report to Joe's family. He's in the clear. He knows. All right, Paul.
Yeah.
Studied.
He's ready.
Yeah,
by the way,
Mo's ready.
When I was working with the Patriots, our shortstop is now big into movies. He's actually got his own movie studio and he's doing stuff. I'm going to see if he has any connections with Denzel. We're getting him on. We're going to try and figure it out.
Well, Joe has trained. Look at, in the background. Joe, you have been coaching. You are one of we really got to call you OGs. You've been private sector. You've been in schools, which a lot of strength coaches still are, private strength coaches. They always try to figure out, how can I help the schools? So, Joe, you have quite the resume with lifting, with coaching. Give a little history of how long it's been going on. And I know you've been at Red Bank Catholic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a lot. So share.
I've also worked with Ocean Township High School, and I worked with Manasquan. I think I got us a new member, Mike Johansson from Manasquan.
Yeah.
I actually was talking to Jay Price, their football coach, about that position 4 years ago, just like I talked to Billy George a long time ago about the position that you and Mark have.
Right.
And, I'm older than dirt. Let's face it. I got you by 10 years. The funny thing and why I hung that IPF gold medal back there. And when I think about my journey as a coach, it really all started in 1987. I won my very first state championship in powerlifting in California. I was working my way through college bartending. And the very next week, one of the local high school football coaches came in, Bill Moronis, I still remember his name. He came in with all this stuff. He came in, and of course, I got my cool T-shirt on right now. Yeah.
Man.
And he came in with
a
a folder full of stuff about the NSCA. This is 87. And he said, I watched you warm up. I watched you lift. Can you come and give some of that? We want our guys to lift. I need my guys to get stronger, but can you bring some of that energy and the passion? Because, I love powerlifting. I love lifting weights. It's in my DNA. It goes all the way back. My grandpa bent bars with P.T. Barnum in vaudeville. Many years ago. He worked out with Jack LaLanne, Charles Atlas, were some of the dudes that he trained with. So it's in the DNA. This guy walks into my bar. A guy walks into a bar, and this is no joke. He offered me a job. It wasn't a paid job. It was a volunteer position at Washington High School, Fremont, California. The very next week, I was in there showing guys how to squat and bench. I wasn't even a CSCS yet. I wasn't paid. I wasn't board approved, but I went in there, and I think by the end of the workout, not a man was left standing. I was full of piss and vinegar at that point. But, when I look back on my career, and that was in California, went to college out there, I started my graduate work at Long Beach State under George Allen. You remember George Allen, our Hall of Fame NFL coach?
Okay.
Since then, since the late 80s, I've never not had a football team that I was helping out, that I was coaching. So when I look back on all of that experience and all of the different short conference high schools, I was also Montclair State, our alumni, my graduate degree back there. Make sure I got to pub up the Red Hawks. Dr. Rob Gilbert. Dr. Rob, we love Dr. Rob. When I went to Montclair, I transferred from Long Beach State, and you're not really allowed to transfer grad schools. I pleaded to the mercy of Montclair because my dad had a massive stroke and I had to move home. You know, when you look at fate and destiny, I was loving life in Southern California. I was personal training at a Gold's Gym, dating the aerobics instructor. I'm training George Allen's football team. I'm like loving life, living on the beach, going to Gold's on Sundays to train with all the meathead bodybuilders. It was great. And then my dad got sick and I had to transfer. So I came home. They let me transfer. I'm filling out my papers. Dr. Arnold. Do you remember her, Zach? Dr. Ree Arnold.
I did health education. You did exercise science?
Science, yes.
Yeah.
She wasn't in there.
No.
Well, I remember walking into her office. She's smoking a cigarette. And I walked in and I says, I'm applying, to transfer. And I said, I know you got a football team. Is there a strength coach? And she said, no, I don't think so. Here's the guys there. So I walk into Rick Giancola's office. He wasn't there. Joe O'Connor there, the assistant. So I gave him a 10-minute little infomercial about me. And the next thing you know, 20 minutes later, I'm offered the job, which again, no money. I wouldn't get paid, but Rick Giancola was like, oh my goodness. And I had just gotten certified. So I was very excited to use my credential and get in there with the football. I got the baseball team going, finished graduate school, come back to Monmouth County, start my personal training operation in 92.
What did where did you start it? Were you inside of because Joe,
I was a home guy. I used to travel home to home. I worked with Springsteen's wife. I worked with his mom. I trained Bon Jovi. I don't want to blow anybody's bubble here, but Bon Jovi don't like to squat, bro. He's a runner. He didn't like, our things didn't kind of gel. I got him ripped in about 7 weeks for a movie, and that was it.
The 80s, though, Joe, I always talk like the 80s, so many coaches were still against lifting, and they were saying crazy things like, you'll be muscle bound. If you stop lifting, it turns to fat. So you got your CSCS when it first comes out in the mid 80s.
Well, I got it in 90. The first,
90, you're still at the forefront. I mean, 1990, the only magazines out was you had Flex, Muscle and Fitness, you had Muscular Development, you had Iron Man. Nothing was strength and conditioning in there.
I have these all the way back to the 80s. I have them at home in a box. I'm moving right now. So I'm going to whip out remember the Jasser? It started out as the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. Is it still the Jasser? They changed their name around.
I know.
I may have some of those in my basement.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the only place to get credible information. And I wasn't a bodybuilder. I really prided myself on the powerlifting, and I left powerlifting for a couple of years because of the drugs. I competed in a USPF meet in 1983, and I remember sitting in the John, listening to all the guys getting ready to warm up, and all they were talking about is this stuff they were taking. And then there's teenagers there asking the questions, and these men are giving teenagers advice on how to use this stuff. So when I got horrifically beat in the States, even though I broke the state record teenage on the bench, I got beat bad. And the dude who beat me was obviously sauced to the gills. So I got disillusioned. And for a couple of years, I just lifted weights for myself. And I would always just, I didn't follow powerlifting because of the drugs. And the other thing that really inspired me was learning the science. I figured, well, if I learn how to eat right, I learn recovery, I learn how to train the right way. I'm a psycho with good genetics. I got great genetics for powerlifting, 5'4", 175 pounds, that I'm going to beat the juicers. That was my goal. So my devouring of the science and the information originally was really about me. Is one day I'm going to stand on that platform and I'm going to beat guys taking drugs. So it was always about me making the most of my natural. So fast forward, California, I'm in college, kinesiology and phys ed. It was the only kinesiology major at that time in California. Dr. Donald Chu was one of my teachers.
Oh my God.
He's the very first guy, the father of plyometrics.
Plyometrics.
And it's funny, at the time, the only certifications around that everyone was doing was health fitness instructor, ACSM.
Oh yeah, American College of Sports Medicine.
Chu told me, he said, look, and when I brought I brought those papers into Don. I says, this is a legitimate NSCA. He says, it absolutely is legitimate. You're the definition of what a strength coach should be. I don't see you working in a cardiac rehab center. So he steered me towards the NSCA and the CSCS. But one of the other quantum events in my life, I'm waiting tables on this guy. He looks at me and he says, you look like a power lifter. And I said, well, I used to be, but the drugs and stuff, I don't want to get into that. It's just not me. It's not for me. I'm crazy enough. You take this nutbag Irish Italian and throw steroids in me, a couple of beers, and I would have been in jail. So I'm serious. Forget about it. So at that time, this guy was one of the original members of the ADFPA, the American Drug Free Powerlifting Association. He had a garage gym, the Mission Muscle Factory.
What a name.
It was in his garage. It was a platform.
That is an amazing name.
And homemade, because his house was in the Mission Viejo Hills.
Oh, that's
so we call it Mission
area.
Muscle Factory.
You know what? Crazy that you say that, Joe. My buddy John Wellborn grew up in Orange County, which is near that Mission Viejo, and he trained with who you would know, George Zangus, in his garage.
Georgie. I remember seeing him at meets. He used to come to the ADFPA meets. And again, so I start training. I come out of the gate, the young stuff, and I win states. And then go figure, the next week, I'm asked into this high school weight room. So, and again, I've never had, it always was Zach. It was me in the weight room a couple days a week. And then I started what? I see all these meathead bodybuilders at the local Gold's Gym getting paid for personal training.
Yep.
You'll pay me to lift with you? What? Guy gave me a wad of 20s, of $1 bills, $20. And I was like, are you kidding me? You want to lift with me and pay me? Okay. 3 hours later, I'm earning like $10 an hour, but it was like one of the greatest sessions, and ever since then, I've always had a private sector, either at a gym or the house, and then the one-on-one private thing. So my career evolved that way.
You know what's interesting, Coach? You mentioned, you spoke to Dr. George, who he's our retired superintendent. We've mentioned him in previous podcasts, but then you mentioned Manasquan, and Dr. George. When people ask, hey, how do these positions happen? I told them, I said, our superintendent, he was a Division I football player. His boys were Division I wrestlers. He loves sports. His brother has coached for over 30 years at the high school. So you need the administration to believe in it. And I think, in Manasquan, they did not have administration who was, and I also think I've mentioned, to be honest, I go, sometimes you need to be lucky. You need a little bit of, I know this guy, he knows that guy. You need a lot of these pieces of the puzzle. And so I'll be honest, sometimes I'm not in the boys club. I don't go and kiss up to people. And I think that, if I was to tell a younger coach in his 20s who's trying to get into this, I'd say, what you did, do the volunteering and be nice. As I got into this industry later. I started private. I was like 28,
Right.
so it's, we didn't have the knowledge. You're getting books and a journal that you paid for in the mail. So you're like,
oh, that and Powerlifting USA. That was like, that was holiday when I got those. I miss that magazine.
I know. I could imagine. What, speaking of the 80s and Powerlifting USA, there were some old strength and conditioning books. Did you get your hands on any of them when you started in the mid-80s?
I love your collection. I'm going to come pilfer your basement while
My wife,
you have a great collection.
She'll give it away, I'm afraid. She'll find out that somebody wants it. She'll give it away.
The very first book I got was Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding.
Yep.
That was like the one that kind of turned me on. And that at the very same time, I got my first weight set, my Ballard small hole 100-pound set for Christmas, 8th grade. And my cousin and me put it together really quick. And we opened the book, the instruction manual.
Yes.
And it was Randy White. Remember Randy White?
My buddy did a great interview with him.
The Manster.
The Manster. There's a, for those listening, you would Google Randy White interview starting strength. My buddy Jim Steele, who I think you probably know Jimmy, right?
From where?
Jim used to be at UPenn for about 20 years. And he was also a power lifter. Jim is down in South.
I think, Jersey. You know what? Again, I've met so many guys in the sport. That name does sound familiar.
Him, and it was a great interview. So for the coaches listening, Google that.
But. Oh, absolutely. And I followed that program. I did. I looked at Randy White, the football player. And then, because I love football, that was my thing. We didn't have wrestling clubs. I wish, there was wrestling clubs when I was younger. That might have been my thing. But the reality is, and then I look at Arnold and, I respected Randy more. So when I had to pick about what was going to be my guide, I picked Randy White's program. But the funny thing was, I get on, and it was incline bench was the very first free weight exercise I ever did was incline. We put it together, and I remember taking the weight off and going, hey, this doesn't feel. So my cousin's like putting the weights on. I'm like, hey, it does. So I'm in the 8th grade. I got all the weights that I got, and I'm like repping out like 15, 20 reps. So my cousin runs out to the living room where my parents are, and he goes, hey, Uncle Ed, I think you got the wrong set for Joseph. There's not enough weights in here. So I think it's a foregone conclusion that powerlifting was going to be my thing. So funny.
What, what tips, looking at these different schools that you've worked with, because like I said earlier, Joe, you were really at the forefront of this when coaches were not going into schools. It was always the football coach ran the weight room. You're probably one of the earliest guys who was kind of not in the school, but they brought you in. How did some of that stuff happen? What advice would you give to coaches out there trying to get into this area? And you're the hybrid guy like me. You're private and inside of schools.
Right. That was in 95 when I was done with grad school. I opened a little 800 square. I was sick of driving around. So I opened a little 800 square foot facility, one rack, a treadmill, and some weights away on a bike. Away we went.
Where'd you get the squat rack from?
I still have it. It's out in my gym there, bro.
Where was it?
I got it from Carmen Cacapardo at Universal Fitness Store in Middletown.
Universal.
He has still, he passed away last year. And, his legacy is still out there. And it's still going strong. It's, that old and it still works. $300. Best thing I ever did. And some of the bars I bought, Zach, for powerlifting.
Yep.
I still have my first PA bar from 1991.
What was it? A Texas Power bar?
It was a PA. Back then, there was a company in Pennsylvania, the Gainers, that ran the Nationals. and they had their own bar. So I really, really liked it, especially for deadlifts. So I bought one of those, and then I bought my Texas bar, which of course I still have.
Yeah.
And I can tell you so many stories about just that one bar. You know what I mean?
I can imagine like the history behind it. So you get the first private, you have your private.
I have a studio, and then the new AD at RBC was a guy I went to high school with, and he knew the changing of the guard was coming. The old football coach was on his way out. He had an incredible girls basketball program. You know, he followed Pat Summitt in Tennessee. Tennessee was lifting. So he brought me in specifically to work with football and girls basketball. And that was it. So I got paid a very minuscule. That was actually like my first real paid gig. And I would go 3 days a week, you know, right after school. And, you know, I was working at my studio all morning. I'd run to the school, and then I'd go back and I would finish my studio at night. And it's funny how the world and times have changed. And it's unbelievable from school to school and district to district. The politics involved, you got to understand it. You have to be a politician. You just have to understand what's going on. Like, you said in your town of Manasquan, did you know about the field house that they just approved? Did you hear?
Yes.
Good. Like that is a quantum leap forward for guys like us, because a facility like that, Mike Johansson's a CSCS, he's ex-Rutgers coach. He's a great guy. I was just talking to him today. He said to say hi.
Awesome.
But the reality is that the private schools have more power to hire a guy like Ed Hernandez. Ed Hernandez at SJV is like you. He's in the school. He teaches some phys ed, and he works as a strength coach. Now, the other district, go the Publix. Publix, like you and Mark both have a PE teacher license, right?
Yes, that was.
Yeah, I don't. I never did. That's a good thing for you. So if my son, who's leaving for the Marines on Monday, God bless him, he comes back, he loves lifting, he's into it. If he ever wants to become a strength coach, I'm going to make him get the phys ed thing, because it's a great kind of blanket insurance policy. It's your foot in the door. You know, once you get into phys ed and you're in that weight room, the word will start to travel. So if nowadays, unless you're purely going to be going to work in the NFL or the NC2A, you know, volunteer interning is absolutely critical. Get that phys ed so you could work at a public school. A lot of public schools require that. However, I found out today, Mike Johansson's like me. He has a master's ex-phys. He's not a certified teacher.
Right.
He just pilfers the phys ed classes. So they come in for phys ed, and he pulls his guys out and they lift while the other teachers are teaching phys ed. So he's not, quote unquote, a teacher in the school.
So what is he?
He can be an aide. He can be any of those positions. Joe,
right.
I'm full time. I exercise masters as well. I'm full time at Central. So
you have the teaching credential, Paul?
Nope. No. I have a provisional certificate, so I could sit for 1 year, but I don't teach any classes. So I get in at 10:30. And then after school, I'm there. We start lifting at 2:30, and then I go till 7 o'clock at night. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that has evolved, where there are some districts like, you know, I met Howell because of Frank Edgerly. And as you well know, sometimes in the sport of football, especially, like football coaches have their guy, right? In the pros and college, you know, wherever that head coach is going to go, the strength coach will follow. So Frank and I had that little relationship going. My son was graduating from RBC. I really couldn't afford to go there anymore because of the money that I was being paid for the hours. The pandemic really put me on my ass when it came to finance. So I really had to revisit and rethink my time, because time is so valuable that I had to just hunker down and get busy doing virtual training, FaceTime training, put your equipment in the truck, train in the driveway.
Right.
And I fortunately, like you, I have loyal clients who've been with me for years. I had one guy who insisted on paying double my rate for privates. He says, no, I'm going to pay. You're going to keep that damn gym going. And my leaving RBC and going to how I'm just a board approved volunteer. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall with the politics when I was thrown off the track, Paul, in August. We raised money. I helped the booster club. We did a bench-a-thon. We raised some money for the boosters. They bought some bumper plates, which they didn't have, and good Olympic bars, which are at a premium. Most high schools that don't have guys like us, you walk in, the bars are all nasty. Try to do it clean, you break your wrist. So we got some new stuff. It's nice. The kids were all pumped. They were all excited because football, weightlifting, it's like this. So I go to do a session and the golf cart comes out and the AD says, no, we can't do this. We can't do this. They don't need the lift. They should do push-ups and sit-ups. And it came down from the principal. So I know they're COVID and they have to keep their jobs. I understand that. And I understand the politics, but a kid that's not lifting weights is way more at risk of injury than a kid who's not. And he's going to have a stronger immune system, blah, blah, blah. So I've got the political landscape of the district down, because in Freehold Regional, it's not one school. Like you've got Middletown, you got 2 schools there. Yeah. Freehold Regional's got 5 high schools, 1 board of ed. Oh, so right. If that AD and that principal are so freaked out and scared and not even giving a crap, they don't see a strength coach as essential. My God, we're giving these kids life skills. We're teaching them how to be good adults. We're teaching them all the things that I really love the way you do your Instagram. You're like a movie producer now, Zach. Some of your stuff gives me goosebumps. Makes me want to go out and like lift weights, all the motivational. That is part of what we're doing, not just big bench presses and state championships. I'm in line with that. But this district, I would be wasting my time to really go after it, put together the PowerPoint, get to the BOE meeting, when I know there's a couple of other districts that I know people that say, hey, why don't you put one together? So I got some other always irons on some other fires, always.
You're right. I think when you know that the administration is just not supporting it for, what you're mentioning, I've always said, when I opened my gym in Manasquan, and I say this openly, I couldn't give it away. We did a fundraiser for their football coach with cancer, and we had like 75 competitors who showed up. 4 of them were from the football team. And I was like, yeah. And so wow. You got to know where you are, and do they support, bottom line, what's in the best interest for kids. And changes happened at Manasquan with a new principal who had, right. They got a new wrestling coach.
Right.
Before that, there were some heavy duty injuries. Yep. Kid broke his leg. Another kid like dislocated a shoulder, where, Paul, you would know better, like the shoulder went through and almost cut off an artery. They had to airlift him. Administration, like Dr. George, I remember coming in for it wasn't really an interview. It was kind of like him giving the speech of excellence, expectation. Yes. He like slapped me on the back. He's like, Evanesh, you were at Lehigh, right? Slaps me on the back. Get in there. Yep. He was pumped up. And he said, he goes, I don't care who's here. He goes, right now, you're all teachers. He goes, but I have these meetings with new custodians, new lunch aides. He goes, everything matters. The appearance, the presentation matters. And so when I got in front of him, I was like, whoa, I am in the right place.
Yes, you're in the right place. And I love my guy, Frank Edgerly. He's back in the pros. I can't say what team yet till they announce it.
Yep.
So I don't know who the new coach is. I certainly, because now I have they have no weight room. They won't let them near it. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, this is the Howell weight room. I've got the kids here from 3:30 to 5. I got 25, 30 kids, and they're getting after it very hard. And they're dying to know who their head coach is. And to me, it's like, let's just be big, strong, fast, physical, healthy. And whoever it is, they can call the X's and O's, but we're physically going to line up and do the right thing, push people around, and be successful no matter who the head coach. So I know whoever the head coach is, I'll be able to talk the language and be able to feel my way in. But if in football, especially Zach, Paul, you know, some of these guys, they have their guys, or they have a certain dude, or I want all my kids to go to this place or that place, and that's it. And, you know, if that's the case, then I'm just going to continue. The Howell wrestling coach wants me to help him. You know, I'm going to help that community because they helped me during a very it was peril around here. And, you know, when 30 kids show up in your back parking lot and you're flipping tires and throwing medicine balls around when a few weeks ago you thought you were going to close, I was like, you know what, I'm going to help them out. And they need it. If they don't have a weight room, my God, it's awful.
Coach, you said the right word, community. And I think that, you know, where I am, I'm blessed because I've lived in Flemington now since 98, you know,
right.
And I've been here 22 years and got to know the people. So now if something ever like that happened where maybe we did have some administration who weren't for it, I know the parents would be there. Like when we built our weight room, there were 20 parents that showed up and said, this is what we need. We've got the guy. We need the space. He's working out a 2-rack weight room right now. We've got 1,400 student athletes. How is this happening? So it was.
Well, it shows, though. The community shows. You have one of the most beautiful high school weight rooms I've ever seen. God bless you. That's awesome. It's beautiful.
If the parents, you know, if the parents are on board, parents are the ultimate decision makers, right? Board of Ed members need parents to vote for them, support them. And I guess, I don't know how it works. Do they get voted in on, you know, the next term? But, you know, the parents are the people who make the decisions. What was scary for me being in Manasquan and having kids is I remember saying, wow, you know, at the time when I was offering to volunteer, I was a strength coach at Lehigh. I was a strength coach at Rutgers. And I was like, I can't even get a no thank you email. And so that's always a little bit scary, you know?
Yes.
And so it is, being a private sector strength coach, and we do have members now of the NHSCA who are also private members. They're private guys like you and I.
Yes.
They're not just in the high schools. It's important for them to understand that you need as a coach, you need toughness yourself to make it through these up and down times, these tricky times. And you also need business knowledge to be able to pivot and do things. And I think, Joe, your experience of, you know, driving around in your car to do one-on-ones in houses, you know, people, to the coaches of today who never did that, they went directly to just do a Zoom call where when you take away that human interaction, that's, you know, the human interaction is always the most powerful thing.
And I love that this organization started. I remember Kevin Vanderbush, right?
Yep.
He's been a longtime NSCA member like me. And I remember sitting at the special interest group, the SIG meeting. And I tried to get to as many high school SIGs as possible, depending on the night before, you know, a lot of those are in Vegas. But I remember him talking about it plainly about how, you know, the national conference is awesome. So much information and science, but a growing population was the high school coach. And I wouldn't say neglected, but if you look at the way that the High School Strength and Conditioning Association evolved, you can see that more and more now we're getting professionals like us in schools. And we need, I don't care if you're a personal trainer who trains 2 high school kids. You need to get involved because we need to band together now. We need to be a community. I, for example, was talking to Mike Johansson today about one of our athletes, Mary Donnelly, who I work with at my place sometimes. She works with him. Him and I, we speak the same language. There's a symbiosis. Bobby Gennarelli loves you. Matt Cody loves you. Travis Tuameli loves you. And we have very similar, we're different, but we're similar. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
We're not going to mess up the program. And there's not enough practitioners out there in the private sector that have empathy for us and what we've gone through in the high school. And sometimes they're just not doing the right thing for the kid. I've seen so many overuse, overtraining injuries at all of these cookie cutter conveyor belt private sector performance places. And I, as the coach at RBC, because I had kids from everywhere. So Zach, I've literally on my cell phone had a F you, dude. I'll do my thing. You do yours. Because this kid was coming in on Mondays, sore as hell from a speed workout. And he knows Mondays are our big squat day. We squat like hell on Monday, be fresh on Monday. And finally I reached out and I says, hey, dude, could you take it easy on this kid's legs? Maybe do some yoga or something so he can squat with his teammates on Monday. That was always a tussle for me. And you speak of territorial and how territorial. And when I was young, I was very much like that. But as time goes on, why I'm here is because I know you and Paul both are in it for the kids. I'm in it for the kids. I can't say the same thing for a lot of your private sector folks right now.
So, Joe, those important points that you made was, so I've been in Manasquan 8 years, and less than 5 sport coaches have come to visit. And maybe 2 months ago, the wall football coach came in and he was like, I had to see what you're doing because the kids are able to do my program and your program. And they tell me that you ask them what we do and you work around it. And he goes, I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate that. So you don't have a kid that comes in saying, I need to just be in that back corner doing my own program. And so what I always tell the kids is, in the private sector, we don't have 50 kids at a time and we have specialized equipment. So we can work around it. Let the sport coach with the team, in the high school have more of the program that everybody can do it together. And you're right. When I was younger, Joe, also, not that I'm like, when you're younger, you don't want to listen. Yeah. You're very like,
it's my way, baby. It's working. Yeah. So it must be right. No,
I'll listen to anybody. A sport coach who hasn't brought their kids to me all year will say, Zach, we need to work on X, Y, Z. I take it into account. Then I see they can't do a good push-up. I still,
and they're bench pressing. How
right.
Can you, right.
I still take it into account. So it's, important to be, as you say, Joe, just be a great listener, learn to work with others, because that's what opens doors.
Right.
What questions do you have for Joe, before we start shutting it down? Any specific training?
Oh, yeah, I do. And we talked about the community. So Coach, say at Howell, how do you get involved with the community? How do they get to know Coach McAuliffe? I know that the football coach knows you and the wrestling coach knows you. We've had some great tussles with Howell over the years. And to be a part of that community, that's big in Howell, the sports. I mean, the woman who runs the Point Beach Hotel, her son was a wrestler for Howell. That's how I got the room the one night. They didn't have any rooms. Like, come on, I'm at Central. She goes, I was in your gym last week. You got a room.
Yeah, nice. That's good. Beautiful.
How do you get involved with the community? So you got your private place, but we talked about community being big. What do you, do you spend time in the town, or do you live there? Or
well, as fate would have it, and again, powerlifting is always around me. the head of the booster club, Michelle Ioannidis, her son's on the team. She would come to the back. I opened up only in the back in the summer. It was outside, right? Brought all my weights outside. That was some chore. But while we were working out, she was watching us, and I was immediately in on Zooms. I did a Zoom on nutrition. I did a Zoom on recovery for the whole parents. So I was introduced via Zoom. So the parents kind of knew who I was. And out of 60 kids on the team, the first session that we had, 33 kids came because of Coach Edgerly. You know, Frank worked in the NFL. He worked for Bill Belichick. He's got Belichick on speed dial, and the respect level was there. So these kids come, and the real community bonding, it started right away because their stud 195-pounder, Hunter Lino, is their stud player, and he's the captain. He walks up front. My son, Aiden, who's going off to the Marine Corps, my son, Aiden, walks past me to go in the gym, and the stud goes, "Hey, that's a guy that pinned me at short conference last year. He pinned me. Who's that?" And I said, "That's my son." So immediately we bonded over that, because football and wrestling and Howell, they go hand in hand. Half of the Howell wrestling team will never see the mat, especially a lot of the football players. They just go to work out and be part of the team. But this lady, Michelle, kept watching the workouts. She was always there. She never broke my chops, Zach. She was always just sat there smiling. So one day I had to go over and talk to her, because she was the only one that never asked any, some parents are just a little over the top. And I'm like, I've learned to be political. But with this gal, I immediately, she's a ham and egger, old school. We start talking, strike up conversation. She's seeing the boys lift. Next thing you know, she's complaining about going to one of those circuit training places. I'm not going to say which one, but where she had to wear a mask. She wasn't getting results, and she was miserable about her workouts. And she's built like a tank. This gal is for real, put together, perfectly designed to lift weights. I said, "Well, do you ever power lift?" She's like, "No, I don't want to get bigger." I said, "No, you're not going to get bigger. You'll actually get leaner if you give it some time." So long story short is she ends up becoming one of my private clients, teaching her to power lift. So like, she's the pulse of that school. She's the head of the boosters, and like literally nothing gets by her. She has all the emails. She's the one. As a matter of fact, when the kids' membership dues are up, she's like my secretary. I'm spoiled. She sends out the thing, "Pay Joe, pay Joe, pay Joe." So I'm in with that booster club. And that, I'm glad you asked that question, Paul, because it's very valid. If you don't have a bona fide position that you're going for, a job, I guarantee there's a neglected team in a high school near you that, like you say, the football players are going to dominate that weight room that doesn't have a strength coach. What about girls soccer? Mm-hmm. What about the field hockey team? What about all these other teams? And that's where you can build a private business. And then there has to be a way for us to put together our resources and references and say, "Hey, look what Middletown South is doing. Look what Hunterton Central is doing. Look what North is doing." I bet. Do you know all the strength coaches? Here's a little trivia for you, Mr. Ivanesh. Do you know all the strength coaches in the short conference?
That are in the high schools.
In schools, go.
We've got Rob at Rumson. Rob Ork at Rumson.
Yep.
We've got Eddie at SJV.
Yep. You, Mark.
Mike here in Manasquan.
Yep.
We've got, I'm slipping his name. He's at
who's at Red Bank. There's somebody at Red Bank.
He's at Red Bank.
Yeah, there is an RBR guy. Wait, I forget his name.
But I'll let me cheat and pull it up.
Not land. Is Clearview in the short conference?
Nope.
Clearview, no.
Nope.
No, Red Bank. Dang it. I have him in at crap. He's a nice
of course, the principal of that school called me up and said, "What credentials should I look for? I'm hiring a strength coach."
Why don't they just hire you, Joe? Why don't they just like, you know what, Paul
Because I
saying
was at RBC. See, I'm a free agent now. So slowly but surely, I'm networking myself out of the stigma that is RBC. Because, you know, for many years, everybody still, I saw a wall football coach out at dinner and I said, you know, I'm not with RBC anymore. He's like, oh, really? And this is already a year ago. So that's 6 out of 36. Any more?
36 strength coaches in the short.
No, 36 short conference football teams, I think, or schools. There's like 36,
right.
37.
I think
freehold, no, Manalapan doesn't have anybody?
no.
Wow.
No, that's a freehold regional school district.
Right.
There's no CSCS or strength coaches in that district. No way.
No.
Nope.
No.
No, I know the head coach there. I would be working for him. Matty Ahern's an old friend of mine.
Yeah, I think that's
one
it.
more.
Wait.
We got to get him to join the organization. He's the character. You'd love having him. Mark Deppen at Donovan Catholic.
Yeah. I know Mark. Yes.
He's like you. He's in. He's phys ed, and oh man, what a character! You talk about playing it like straight from the vest. That guy will tell you like it is.
Oh yeah, he'll say it like it is. They've got a beautiful weight room, but I don't know if he trains all teams or primarily football. I'm not sure how it works at
but he again is another professional strength coach. But 100%. My point is, out of all the schools in just the Jersey Shore Conference, what we got 7, 8. So I guarantee
like 25%.
Look at Texas.
Texas, Georgia, the Carolinas, they are ahead of the curve. And we have mentioned this before. And so we need, parents, administration, we need a lot of that education. I wonder, Joe, this is also an interesting question. I wonder if parents are also, because now there's so many private coaches,
right?
That they're just like, whatever, let me just send you to Joe. Let me send you to Zach. They don't even want to try it. But I knew a guy, he did like the in-school detention thing. And then he was the baseball coach. But that was how they got him the job. They're like, this guy, we need him to be the baseball coach. What position can we hire him for? In-school detention. Bang.
Right.
He gets
like Paul
salary,
said,
everything.
There is 100% that the kids need camaraderie. They need teamwork. They need to know how to spot each other properly. Load the bar for your friend. Pick weights up off the floor, not because you're a pig, because you don't want your friend, the starting tailback, to trip over the freaking dumbbell and get a sprained ankle. It teaches them how to be part of a team and a community, even if, let's say, their methodology has something that they're lacking. All right. But if all the kids went into the weight room 3 days a week, got together, that's the other thing about the How kids. They're virtual. When you see them come together, the joy, and I had to elongate my sessions, the joy that they get. Weightlifting should be fun.
Today, I had these 4 seniors from lacrosse were training. They're one kid's football, the other 3 are lacrosse. They were done. I saw them in the back laughing, cracking up, doing like 30 minutes of preacher curls.
Because this is life. They should have this for life. It's a life skill.
And I was thinking to myself, man, I remember those days of hanging out, like you train, but then you're hanging out afterwards just to talk with your buddies. And, what is, like you said, administration got on you like, whoa, they're touching the weights. I'm like, what was going on back there was life. And that's what we need. I really wonder though, Joe, and Paul, I really wonder about this. There's a private sector speed or strength coach in every town, multiple ones. Manasquan is a square mile or a mile and a half. There's multiple private coaches between CrossFit and everything in this town. I wonder if people just say, you know what, screw it. Just let them go private. Why do we got to try to? I sometimes wonder if that's what people think. And then what do I always say? Let's make a very cut and dry decision. Let's do what's best for the kids, period, end of story. So when Manasquan was, people who live in town were opposed to this sport building. And I got on and I said that and somebody like me could have very much said, hey, I've tried to offer my help for 8 years, so I'm not supporting this.
Yeah, but you live there, right?
That's right.
You got kids there, right?
And I don't even know if my kids will go to this high school, to be honest with you. But you know what I said? It's what's best for the kids.
It is.
You know, and
absolutely
somebody
is.
was like, well, you know, not too many kids are struggling emotionally. And I said, you know, ma'am, you're actually wrong. There's a lot of kids struggling emotionally. Look, I say it to my wife. I go, if I'm a jerk, just send me to my gym. I'll deadlift. I'll come back in 30 minutes. I'll be the best husband ever.
Absolutely. If daddy don't train, I'd be single. If I'd be single. There's no doubt about that. 100%.
In November, it was 29 degrees outside. Tell me the kids don't want to be outside. I had kids with gloves, hoodies, everything. I had almost 20 kids in a group outside. Tell me that they don't want to come in and get engaged. That's he's way off base.
And those are the kids. Those are the kids 20 years from now when you're driving in town that are jogging past you or somebody like, hey, coach, how you doing? Still working out, you know? That's what we want to see. And it often now with these administrations, they're using the budget. We're getting cut. Everyone's getting cut. The state is cutting. It's budget. It's budget. It's budget. But can we afford to skimp on kids' health and well-being? Can we shave money? Do you want to have coupons here? Or you want a bargain basement BS? Or do you really want to take care of them? And that's what I think their job is.
Yeah. Are we discounting? Yeah. And listen, you know, we've lost kids. You could go to, media didn't put it out. They pushed, of course, you know, how much stuff was going on with COVID. But what they didn't talk about was the emotional strain and the rise in suicide rates of the kids.
So scary. Well, I have a 7th grader and I'm really struggling with him. And we keep him as busy as we can, but being on that computer all day affects him. And
affects me.
My God.
It makes me nuts. You know, for a while, I deleted the social apps off my phone for about 6-7 weeks because I just don't want to be touching that phone all the time. It's annoying.
Right. Grab the barbell. That's a better thing.
That's it. So listen, Joe, this has been awesome. Paul, were you going to close out with something?
No, this has been awesome.
We didn't ask Joe his favorite food.
Well,
Paul, anytime, and I'll say this to Zach too, you know, every few months, my juices start flowing for heavy bench. If you want me to come up and talk about performance enhancing drugs, recovery, nutrition, and I can put my slingshot on and bench 405 for reps at any time, do a little demonstration, fire your guys up. I would love to do so. Same thing, Zach. Anytime you want me to come over, throw some weights around.
When I'm off these crutches, we're going to do our family day and a get together. But Joe, we didn't ask you, what's your favorite meal? Go-to meal?
You said that you said you didn't get home for dinner. Well, you said you didn't get home for dinner. So
my favorite meal is a porterhouse and a big ass loaded spud and a nice tall Guinness stout there.
We need to do that as a group.
No corned beef? You said it. You said, wait.
Well, I like corned beef, but it's a little fatty to eat every day. So the porterhouse is a little better.
Now we had Coach O'Neill on a couple of weeks ago, and it was the month of March, and he was on his 5th corned beef already. You know
about Michelle, who we interviewed. She said there's like a pub. She's up in New Hampshire. It's called the Thirsty Moose.
No!
Baby. Can you imagine? They probably have the best steak, loaded potato, and a Guinness. Like and Joe, as you know, that was like a post-workout meal of powerlifters in the 70s.
As I know, that's what I thought. I thought pre-workout was peanut butter and jelly and Coca-Cola, and post-workout was a loaded meat lover's pizza and a beer. I really did. And who would have thunk that cabbage, mention cabbage. Cabbage is an unbelievable superfood that is really effective at giving you good probiotics, good fiber. People shouldn't eat it just once a year. Come on.
My wife makes stuffed cabbage with beef. Yeah, beef.
That's a
onions.
perfect meal.
I know.
I got to tell you though, hey, I was down the Jersey Shore last week on vacation, Ocean
All right.
City, at the boardwalk.
Oh,
Oh baby.
yeah.
Oh,
That's a 5-pound week. Easy.
oh, yeah, it was easy.
Easy.
Oh my goodness.
Easy.
I learned about Polish water ice. Oh, come on.
The Polacks know how to do it. They certainly do.
That is
That's
so
for sure.
funny. Joe, you got to get home to the family. We went overboard on your time. Super grateful for your time. And also, I'm so excited to finally meet you in person, learn from you, have our family day. And I'm just really excited. I love your passion. I love your energy.
Thanks.
I mean, you said you're older than me, but as they said in the Jerky Boys, you sound like a young kid.
That's what my
Jerky
wife
Boys.
says.
We're closing with the Jerky Boys. I love it.
Yeah, you
Jerky
sound.
Boys.
How old are you? You sound like a young kid.
And by the way, it's AC/DC, Metallica, Guns N' Roses for me.
Dude, I've been crushing AC/DC on Spotify in the weight room, and I don't think the kids have heard AC/DC. Like you said, they've been listening to some of the. Look, I like rap, but the rap of today is it's just a little out there for me.
90s. The 90s has
90s
good rap.
is great. And you always got one kid who's got an affinity for the 80s and 90s rap. And I'm like, all right, my man.
I call them my cultured boys. Some of my kids are so cultured. They're talking about Gordon Lightfoot, for Christ's sake.
It's amazing.
I tell you, I'm gonna tell you this. Yesterday, I had one wrestler come in. He's a freshman. His dad wrestled at Central, was a legend at 100 Central. This kid got 14th seed because nobody knows him. And he walks in. I said, "What do you want to hear today?" He goes, "I want to hear classic rock." And he went and got the med balls and started slamming. Oh, it was.
Is that a Jackatoe?
No,
it's Jackatoe?
Thompson.
Oh, you remember the Jackatoes, of course.
I do.
Jackatoes were they Old Bridge though, Joe?
They were the Cedar
Ridge.
Cedar Ridge.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were 100th Central. I can't keep track. I got 12 guys coming up to your school this weekend, going to super regions from
I'll be
6
working.
different.
I picked it up.
God bless you. Good luck.
All right, you're working as the athletic trainer, and then states this year are Phillipsburg.
Heberg. Yeah, I won't be there.
Okay. Really great. Joe, thank you so much. Head home to the family. We love you, buddy, and we'll see you soon. Paul,
okay, brother.
Stay on, Paul, so we could mention the regional event. Joe, thank you, bro.
See you, Coach.
See you, buddy.
See ya.
Bye. All right, Paul, we're going to close this out. Joe, thanks, buddy. Paul, can you again mention?
Leave. There it is. Leave.
There he goes. Joe has a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. I hope that a local high school grabs him and says, because now the pressure is on, especially in the Monmouth County area that we're in. Like he said, there's like 6 strength coaches. He mentioned Mark Deppen. He's in Ocean County, but Monmouth County might be the most dense, of high school strength coaches who are full-time. Mm-hmm. And so I hope Joe, a school will grab him and say, we need this man's knowledge, like what they did here in Manasquan. Mike Johansson coached at Rutgers for 19 years.
Yep.
Guys like that, when you've coached that long and lifted for twice as long, you have such a different coach's eye than, he's been lifting for maybe twice as long as some coaches have been alive,
Yeah.
So I hope, I know the private sector is tough. And so I felt bad that we kept him on and he's going home late. We're going to have to buy him like a meatball sub.
I'll send him one.
So let's again.
By the way, how was that pizzeria? Was it good stuff?
I've gone there since day one. It's Esposito's. Before that, it used to be called Main Street Trattoria, but we go there a lot. And you're the man. That was like a couple days after my surgery. And for those listening, the reason why we've kind of chilled out on these is I had a full meniscus repair, and getting up and down with these crutches is crazy. So we will pick it back up in like 3 or 4 more weeks. but Esposito's is great. And Paul, you're just a great friend, dude. Like you, Coach McKenna. Coach McKenna called me the other day, by the way. Like us Jersey guys, look, I mean, it is the National High School Strength Coaches Association, but New Jersey's awesome.
Yeah.
Come at me, bro.
Period.
End of story. We're out of control. So for our friends to sign up for the regional event, you go to nhssca.us. There's an events tab. You sign up for the regional event, and they don't have to be members, but there's a discounted rate for members and a very cheap rate for students. What is the student rate?
I want to say it's $25 or something like that. It's really cheap.
Nothing. That is nothing. And you got, think the whole learning thing. What I want to emphasize, Joe was talking about, the only way he was able to learn was he had to become a member of the NSCA. He had to buy into the membership, and then you have to pay for the journal of strength and conditioning. There was nothing for free. He had to buy Powerlifting USA. So you value that information. And I really encourage coaches to take a break from social. There's a lot of quick stuff you could learn on social, but go and get some strength and health magazines from the 50s and 60s. Go pick up The Strongest Shall Survive. I meant to ask Joe what his favorite strength books was outside of his early days, but he mentioned Randy White. So again, Google Randy White interview starting strength, and you'll hear an amazing interview. My buddy Jim Steele interviewed him, and Randy said like when he was in his best shape was when he was released from a team. I guess he played for he was the
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. He was released from the Cowboys. He put his squat rack and his barbell set in the back of his pickup truck and went to his friend's farm in Texas. And he said all he did was like a squat, bench, clean. And then he said he would sprint through the farm, through like the cornfield or something. He goes, and then he would hunt and fish. So that's why they called him the manster. The manster, like he was just like a man. He was like
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was such an inspiring interview. So Paul, we went way overboard. You're the man. This was great. Everybody, we are powered by nhssca.us. For our New Jersey friends and coaches who have recently become members, we're growing in membership. It's going to be awesome. We'll have a family day soon enough where we get together, have some food, maybe do it at my gym, or I don't know what we'll do, but we'll figure it out. And it's going to be great. I got 3 more weeks till I'm off these crutches. And what I'm going to do is do a bonfire with my crutches. I'm going to burn them.
I'll be there. You tell me when you're doing it. I'll be there.
I'll burn them, dude. I can't wait to just walk again.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So Paul, boom, you're the best. Everybody who's listening, watching, share it with coaches, share with administration, and go back and listen to our other episodes, especially if you want to learn how to communicate. Our last interview with Mark Rosemilio was our experience through the interview, what we learned that administration wants. A lot of important points there.
We got some good lineups coming too. John Torrey, Coach Sco. So we got some good people queued up on the runway. And
then John Torrey's athletic director wants to be on, which is real. How interesting is that? Is that his athletic director wants to be on, which means that's what you need. You need the ADs that support it.
Awesome.
Very good.
Heal up, buddy. Go put that foot up, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, brother. Talk to everybody soon. Bye-bye, everybody.